welcome to this video. Earlier in the week I put out a call to my email list for people to send in their questions about managing stress, and I did that on Monday and I got a lot of replies. So I've decided to do this series of Q&As. It has taken me till Friday to be brave enough to actually do this. So I felt really brave when I asked for the questions, and then a little bit less brave when I came to do this. So I thought I'd start actually by just talking a little bit about how I've got myself to do something that's kind of anxiety provoking for me, to be on camera like this and to be kind of live. Live to tape, live to video. And the way I did it was, so I ordered a tripod, right? So that came on Wednesday. So that ended my excuses not to start. And then so I got it set up on yesterday, Thursday, and my spouse made some stupid comment that really elevated my anxiety and about what I should wear or whatever. And my 4-year-old's poking her head around the corner to see what I'm doing. So that ruined things for yesterday. And so today I had to psych myself back up into doing it. And I felt really nervous. And so the strategies I used were to make it as easy as possible. So rather than thinking about like doing perfect editing or perfect this, that, and the other thing, I thought I'm just going to start with a few of what feel like the easier questions to me and just get it done and get something out there, and then I can work on improving it as I go along. And the other thing I thought about is like people need their question answered, right? So these are real people who have written to me with questions that are things that they're struggling with, and one of my values is to be reliable, right? I want to be someone that's reliable and dependable and sensitive to other people's feelings, and so I would put those values ahead of my own anxiety. And so in combination, that is basically what allowed me to get on and do this. So hopefully people like it. It won't be perfect to start out with. It will be far from perfect, but hopefully as I do more of these, it will get better. I got lots and lots of questions. So I think I had about 60 or so questions so far. So it's going to take me a while to get through them. If you are subscribed to my YouTube channel but you are not subscribed to my email, go ahead and go to aliceboys.com and you'll get a pop-up to subscribe to the email list, and you can reply to those emails. So these questions are all going to be about some aspect of managing stress, so that's the topic that I'm going to stick to for a start, but there will be a bunch of other opportunities, and so you can still submit your questions if you weren't subscribed to the email list to see that it was an option. So go ahead and let me know your questions about managing stress. But bear in mind that it may take me a little while to get through them all. What else? This is really for information purposes only. So I'm a writer these days. I'm no longer a clinical psychologist. I used to be, but now I'm a writer. So these are in no way, this is in no way medical advice or anything of that nature. This is just for information, and you should obviously, if you've got major stuff going on, you should obviously see your own health provider. Okay, so let's get into these questions. All right, see what we've got. I'm just going to do what I can get through. Okay, so I had a bunch of questions on a similar topic. So Tomas said, how do I know I'm experiencing stress? Amber said, how can I gauge my stress level? Can I be stressed and not even know it? And Zana said, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, said, sometimes I miss the mental cues and only realise when the physical cues hit, like IBS, that my stress levels are high. What other warning signs should I look out for? So this is I think something I've talked about before. I think I wrote about it in the Healthy Mind Toolkit. So there are, what I think is a really good way to know if you're stressed is if you stop doing self-care habits that you would normally do. So when I'm not overly stressed, I'm really good at taking my vitamins, and so I take them with lunch. And when I am stressed, like even doing something as simple as taking a vitamin seems like I just don't have the willpower left for it. So that's one aspect. So it's like when you get into these cycles of not taking care of yourself. And another sign for me is I get allergies. I get a lot of like dust allergies and pollen allergies, and I end up like sneezing all day. And one way for it to be worse is if I don't run my robot vacuum cleaner, or if I'm not changing my sheets often enough. And so those are things that are really central to taking care of myself. If I'm not doing those, it's a sign that I'm overly stressed. Another one for me is if my kid has been asking me to do something kind of simple that she would like for a while, and I've just ignored it. So if she's been asking me to bake something in particular, or if she's been asking me to have a bath with her or something like that, if I've been putting that off when that's something that's really important to me, then I'll know that I'm stressed and kind of not seeing the big picture, because I'm not doing things that are both simple and really in line with my values. So I would say that it's really good to have to have some things for you, just a couple of really simple things that are your barometers, that you know that you tend to drop when you're stressed out. And I like to divide it into early and late warning signs. So an early warning sign is when you're just getting a little bit stressed, and a late warning sign is when you know that that you've been stressed for a while and things have gotten a little bit out of control, and that you need to really put some dedication into getting things back on track. And a sign of that might be a physical sign, like if you get some kind of stress-induced medical problem like IBS or dandruff or any of those kinds of things that can get worse with stress. So that would be what I would think about. Zana also asked, can stress cause IBS? Does IBS cause stress? Never sure which way around it came or which came first. Okay, so stress obviously does cause and exacerbate a lot of physical health problems. Does IBS ever cause stress? Well, yeah, it can. Like, the stronger relationship is likely to be that the stress is causing the exacerbation of the physical problems. But if you've got a physical problem that is stress induced, then you can really get into a lot of self-blame when it happens and think, oh, I'm not managing my life, I'm not a competent adult kind of thing. And that can sort of be a bit of a feedback loop and exacerbate that stress. And also any kind of pain that we're experiencing tends to reduce our capacities to cope, so we'll be a bit less resilient or a bit more irritable and that kind of thing if we're experiencing any kind of pain. So sometimes I get like overuse pain if I've been like typing too long in the wrong position, or and that can really like give you that kind of thing can give you a really shortened fuse. So there's definitely like a lot of feedback loops going on there. I think that's probably it from those questions. Let's take another one. I need to remember to smile, right? I look at the YouTubers that I like that do this kind of thing, and they're all really smiley, and I'm like self-conscious that I forget to be smiling because I'm kind of concentrating, trying to do a good job. Okay, so this is from so those questions were from Amber, Zana, and Tomas. So thank you for those. And this one is from Beth. Okay, this was a sweet one. My biggest question right now revolves around advice for managing the stress of juggling virtual learning with my child and also working my job. We have a pretty good schedule worked out, and she's a real trooper. Some weeks we both dread Mondays. And my idea for that one was to plan something for Monday. So have a Monday's habit that you both really enjoy, and you'll have to be a little bit careful that what you pick doesn't get old, or maybe you have several Monday habits that you can alternate, so that you don't get hedonic adaptation, you don't get kind of bored with whatever you're choosing. But I would have plan some things that you guys both enjoy for specific days of the work week. So something for you may only need something for Mondays and Tuesdays. Maybe it's Mondays and Tuesdays that are hard. If that's the case, have something really enjoyable that's special to a Monday or a Tuesday. We used to like when I was growing up, we used to have a night of the week that we went to the library, and that was something that and got new books, and that was something that we really liked to do. So it could be simple, but whatever you and your child enjoy. try that. I know that's not a super comprehensive tip, but one of the things that I think people who are really stressed and experiencing like depression or anxiety sometimes overlook is that simple things can really be what kicks off an upward spiral for you. So if you end up doing something, a little something, and it works well, that will really kick off you putting in more things in place that also like keep that positive spiral going. So if that's not the right tip for you, Beth, then find something else really simple that makes Mondays a little bit better. It could be one way that you take the pressure off yourself a little bit. So when you do things and they work, that's like it's self-reinforcing, it's self-perpetuating. So try that. This is from Kevin. I have noticed that I become increasingly anxious when thinking about trying new activities. For example, I want to increase my fitness by going to martial arts, but I've struggled to by going to a martial arts gym, but I've struggled to get there. Each time I've tried, my anxiety stopped me from going by either coming up with lots of thoughts about not being good enough. How could I be if it's something that's new to me? And I've not copied and pasted the rest of the question, but the gist is how can he try new activities when he's anxious? Well, the strategy that I like for this is to do an exposure hierarchy. So put a bunch of new things that you're psyched to do, that you would really like to do, in a list, and rank each one from 0 to 10 about how anxiety provoking it would be. So 0 is not at all, and 10 is like instant panic attack kind of thing. And group them into little categories, so like things that are sort of like 2 to 3, 3 to 4, or 2 to 3, 4 to 5, however it seems the most logical for you to group them. And do a few at like one particular level until you feel ready to move on, and then move on to the next level. And that would be how I would start. And I also talked a little bit about that at the start of the video, about how I get myself to do things that I feel nervous about. I make them as simple as possible. Like, so I take away all of the extra pressures that I put on myself, like to do it perfectly, to do it in some sort of special fancy way, or whether, you know, like maybe for martial arts you think you need to have like a certain outfit or something that you need to do it. And don't start with any of that. Like, start by just showing up. Make showing up the bar initially, and also look at any values that will trump anxiety for you. So for me, it's like responsibility to other people, being reliable, all of those kinds of things. There are probably lots that trump anxiety. So find what those are for you and use those as motivation. But definitely working your way up can be useful too. Alright, now let's do this one last one. This is from Rob. Oh, I have a few more that I could probably get through. I'll try and get through a few more. I've been able to use a number of your tips and suggestions from Psychology Today and from your book, The Healthy Mind Kit, to manage my own stress and anxiety. Do you have any tips for how I could help someone else manage their own stress without being overly prescriptive or blunt? Some strategies work for me but can get lost in translation when helping someone else. Yeah, so that's a really good question. I actually there was a couple of versions of that question about how I can help other people with managing their stress. And one phrase that I used in the Healthy Mind Toolkit, and I use it quite a lot, is one person's light bulb moment is another person's eye roll. So there are lots of basic strategies for managing stress that work for most people, like exercise is one. But people can hear that tip forever before it becomes the right time for them to use, before like the penny drops, or everything kind of clicks into line, and it becomes something that the person really jumps on board with, and then they can become like an evangelist for that. Like, it could be getting enough sleep, or it could be meditation, or it could be exercise, or whatever it is. And once somebody is really on that train, that's really working for them, so they want to share it with everyone else. And even colleagues I know have been like that, where they've started doing something, where they've known the basics, like they've known the psychology behind why something was a good idea for a long time, but they only personally get on that train when something clicks into their life that clicks into place in their life that causes that to happen. So I would just be kind of aware of that. If you know someone really well, sometimes you can start to know their what their thinking processes are and the thought corrections that really help them. So if you had somebody that tends to approach things perfectionistically and then gets stressed out because that's what they're doing, then you might be able to help them correct those thoughts, and just in a way where you say, like, what about this alternative way of thinking about that? So it can really be really good if spouses can get to that point with each other, where you can, especially if you're both sort of prone to stress getting out of control, or both prone to anxiety or those kinds of things, then knowing each other's thinking patterns, then you can help point out to the other person when those might be occurring. And if you're both doing it with each other, then it's a little bit easier than if only one person's doing it. The other thing would be, I would say, just like is showing through doing rather than showing through telling. So inspire somebody to exercise by exercising yourself, inspire someone to eat better by eating better yourself, like invite the person to do something with you, rather than sort of telling them what they should do. The other thing is to know, like, some people will only accept advice from certain other people. So sometimes it's also knowing when you're not the right person to be giving that advice, but when they've got other people in their lives that they will accept advice from. So that's something to look at too, whether you want to actually leave that to somebody else. See, I don't feel like that was the best answer, but that's the answer I can give for today. What are your top tips to clear your mind? This is from Emma. What are your top tips to clear your mind and feel cognitively refreshed? I feel like I would cope much more easily with stress if I managed to do that. I find it difficult to get perspective or think intelligently when I feel overwhelmed. What are your top tips for doing this? So this is something that can be a bit of a struggle. So sometimes I will be at a point where I'm like, I need to, for example, when I finish a big project and I'm thinking, well, what's next? Like, what do I want to take on next? And I'm not getting any clarity. I want to do some big picture thinking at this point to sort of decide on what direction I'm taking, but I'm struggling to get that. And sometimes it takes a while. Like, sometimes you can muck through that stage for about a week or so, trying to find what gives you the clarity. Changing up your routine in some way can be really good for in that scenario. So trying a new exercise for a while, not setting yourself up to think I'm trying a new exercise, I'm gonna have to do it forever, but just I'm gonna switch up my routine for a little while. So our behaviours influence our thoughts to a huge extent, and if you want to have fresh thoughts, then you have to try fresh behaviours. So trying something that you've never done before. Something that I've done is I've tried the rock climbing wall at my gym. I've been going to my gym for ages, and was like, well, when I walk in the door, I walk past this rock climbing wall every day. So trying something like that. And so if there's a resource that you use regularly, but there's some aspect of that resource that interests you, but you've never actually tried that thing, that could be an example. or something often places will have like intro offers, so where you can go for like a month of hot yoga or something like that from for like a small fee. So finding somewhere that has that kind of intro offer, or getting out into a place in your local community that you've never been to. So there might be like some excursions, like some state parks or something like that are like an hour from your house or something like that. There might be things that you want to do. So I would say changing up your routine in some way, and anything that involves some sort of physical exertion is going to help you feel fresher. So those would be the things to try. But it is hard, right? It is hard to get that big picture perspective, and I've noticed that when I'm needing that and I'm trying to like use my own tips to make that happen, sometimes it can take like 3 or 4 days to actually find it. Another thing is that sometimes like just getting some fresh questions, some really radically different ways of looking at things. So like a book, like the kind of book that a lot of people find inspirational. So one of Brene Brown's books, or there's a book on stoicism called The Obstacle is the Way. Like exposing yourself to any fresh way of thinking. If you've maybe heard of those things, or other people have recommended them or whatever, but you've never delved into it yourself, like exposing yourself to some sort of new way of thinking about ordinary life can be helpful. There's another, the author of the 4 Hour Workweek, Tim Ferriss, has got a list, a PDF called like 17 questions that changed my life or something, and there's some good like quirky ways of looking at life in there. So that would be something else I would try to give yourself a cognitive refresh. And they're all things that I do. Like I don't do them perfectly, but I do them in some form, and it does feel a little bit more like muddling through than like there's any clear epiphany. And I like it. This is the last one for today. Alright, and I really hope I'm in the frame for this. I tested where I had the tripod at the beginning of the video, and I hope I haven't talked for like 20 minutes or whatever, and it's missing some of my head or whatever. Maybe I'll put it up anyway if it's like that. How can you tell if you're actually overworked, experiencing burnout, versus just poorly managing time and stress? And how can you tell if burnout stress means you need a vacation or a career change? Okay, so I'm going to take that's from Kim. I'm going to take the last little bit of that. So how can you tell if you need a vacation or a career change? Well, an easy way is to take the vacation and see if it helps, right? Again, getting back to that point that people often underestimate the impact of small changes. The other thing I would say that pops into my mind when I see that question is, she's saying, how can I tell if I need a career change? And I wouldn't look at it like that. I would think about do you want a career change, right? You don't have to need a career change. And so the question is whether you actually want one or not. But I would definitely try living a more balanced life first, like taking your breaks, taking your vacation, taking a proper lunch break, doing doing the work that is at your actual responsibility and not a bunch of extras. Like I would test all of that out to see whether it made a difference, and then reassess. Because those are all things that, like, if you did change career but you were still like carrying all those patterns over into a new career, you might have the same problems that you're having now anyway. How can you tell if you're overworked versus just poorly managing time and stress? So think about how other people would see that. Like, so I don't know whether Kim is a super disorganized person, or whether Kim is a perfectionist and she's super well organized and that's how everybody sees her, and she's just really hard on herself. So, and I also think that that's a little bit of a, like the second question, it's a little bit of a false it's a little bit of a false question in a way, because I think those things are really related. So we all know things that help us manage stress, and at times we all have trouble actually doing those things. So you might know that like meal prep or something is, or exercise or whatever it is hugely helpful for you for managing your stress, and yet you don't do it. So a lot of times people have those skills, but they're just in that rat on the wheel mode. Like they're just keeping going. They're just in complete survival mode, and they're really focused on surviving and not thriving. And you might have those skills, but the mode that you're in is interfering with you using them, and that's where you need to look at ways to break that cycle. And sometimes people try and break it by being extra productive and extra disciplined. Like they think, when I do all of these like super productive things, then I'll let myself have some time off. And sometimes you actually have to start with the breaks. Like, so just what I said, taking your lunch break away from your desk, taking all of your breaks, doing the things that you would tell somebody else to do if they were in your position, and seeing whether and changing those things, and knowing that if there's a feedback loop from being productive to being well rested and things like that, that you can actually intervene in that feedback loop on either side of things. But a lot of people, when they're in that mode of just being in survival mode and not thriving mode, they need to intervene with the breaks first. Alright, and all of that's actually stuff that I talked about in Healthy Mind Toolkit. So that is it for today. What did I get through? I got through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. So yeah, it is going to take me a while to get through all of this, but I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you got something out of it for yourself. And I will continue to ask these questions. If you are not signed up to my email list and want to submit a question, sign up at dallasboys.com, and you can still submit your questions. So if you have something, to ask about managing stress, send that in now. And if you have, and I'll also do some other topics once I get through this batch, and see if if this goes pretty well, if it's popular, I will look at doing some other topics. Thank you for watching, and that's it for now.